For years, you've been trying to figure out what is wrong with your mother and also what is wrong with you. You've been raised in an environment with very little support, very little emotional support, physical support, not a whole lot of involvement in your life, and a real disconnect with the parent who was supposed to provide all of the love, support, safety, and that feeling of protection. I think that not all women were meant to be mothers. Not all of them even really wanted to be mothers, but depending on the circumstances, the time that they grew up in, maybe they just became mothers because that's what they were expected to do. If you were raised in an environment where you were always guilted into everything, you were not allowed to have your own identity, you were very controlled, your feelings were not warranted, your successes and your wins were not celebrated, you were criticized for everything, you were not allowed to be better than your parent, and you had this feeling of jealousy between you and your mother, chances are your mother's a narcissist, and that is what I wanted to talk about today, because this is what I've experienced most of my life, and I want to make a disclaimer. I am not a medical professional. I am merely talking about what I've experienced in my life, and I'm here to share this with other women because I never knew how to label what was happening. I struggled for so many years wondering, what is wrong with her? What is wrong with me? Why does she treat me like this? And it wasn't until I saw videos on social media a few years ago that talked about this, and it brought me so much relief because I could never pinpoint, I could never explain how or why. And then when I finally knew the term, and I looked up the definition, I thought, oh my gosh, this is literally my whole life. And this is how I've lived. And it brought me so much peace just understanding what it meant and why. Most narcissist mothers will divide their kids. They will assign roles. One will be the golden child and one will be the scapegoat. And in my case, I was always the scapegoat. I have an older sister and she could never do anything wrong. She basically took off and abandoned the family when she was 18 and she left town. No matter what she does, she's still always the golden child. She comes into town once every, year or two, and it's like the queen showed up. The red carpet comes out, all the special lovey-dovey, I love you, and all this fawning, and I don't think I've ever heard the words, I love you from my mother to me. So this is what the parent will do. They'll assign roles. The scapegoat, they blame for everything. They're the ones that are going to go down for everything, while the golden child can do absolutely no wrong. And with those roles, the parent also triangulates, meaning that she does everything she can to separate the family. So it's like her at the top and separate kids. And it's the basically the gossiping back and forth. So anything to pit the kids against each other, which is also what's happened in my situation. So my mother would always tell all of my, personal business, my, anything that I've confided in her, she would go and tell my sister. And then it was always twisted in a way to make it look like I was a bad guy. I was the bad guy. And my mom was somehow coming to save the day, or that I was the enemy. I was doing something wrong. And then my mother would do the same thing with me. She would say stuff about my sister to kind of brainwash me into thinking my sister was the bad guy. Now, the thing is that, in these type of situations, the one sibling that's the golden child, they're going to do everything they can to maintain their position. They do not want to give up their position because they don't want to be on the receiving end. So even though my sister knew and knows that all of this is going on, she's still really loyal to my mom, and she still sucks up to my mom. She comes into town. She does everything that she needs to do, again, to suck up to my mom, and I'm always the bad guy. So the fact that eventually my mother will pass away and my sister and I will still be here, I would imagine for many, many years, she doesn't care about that, because in her eyes, all she needs to do is stay in the good books of my mother. And in the meantime, our relationship has suffered and we actually don't speak. If your mother shows signs of jealousy and competition with you, chances are she's a narcissist. She's jealous of everything about you. She's jealous of your successes, of your weight, of your looks, of how much money you have, of whatever car you're driving, how big your home is. For whatever reason, it's not acceptable for you to be better than her, because the attention always has to go back to her, that she has done something so wonderful and she raised you and she did this and she did that. Now, with these mothers, they're more than happy to brag about all of your successes to their friends, as if they had something to do with your success, because it makes them look good. However, deep down in reality, to them, this is another form of competition. And in my case, I stopped sharing any of my good news or my successes with my mother, because, new car must be nice. Promotion at work, wow, must be nice. How much are you making now? And it was never about, wow, you've really come a long way. You've really built a really nice life for yourself against the odds, because everything I have in my life, I created myself. And then when I got married, my husband and I, we built our life together. So we have a very comfortable life. And my mom loves to try to take credit for, I have a great job because of her. I have this, I have that. We have a house because of her. All of this stuff that she had absolutely nothing to do with. So your mother, if she's a narcissist, she's going to take credit for all of your successes, but she's also going to use those successes against you. And she's going to be really jealous about it. The focus is always going to be on her. She's always going to turn everything back, whether it's a conversation, an outing, everything has to be where she is the center of attention. So, for example, I recently have lost weight. So over the last couple of years, I've been on a healthy journey, to lose weight, get healthy. I'll share that video here about my midlife transformation. And I lost 30 pounds. So of course, naturally, my mother was very jealous. And of course, has never acknowledged ever that, oh, you look great, you lost weight. But she certainly always made a comment that, oh, wow, you look like you put on a few pounds. Oh, wow, your hair looks really blonde. Why is it so blonde? Oh, why are you wearing so much makeup? So there's always criticism, always, but never any praise. So I lost 30 pounds. And whenever I go out shopping with my mom, well, when I did, that was also a competition, because it was like, who had more money? Who had, better clothes? Who could buy this? Who could buy that? So an example, we have a store in the mall. We both shop there. It's both one of our favorite stores. I'd go shopping with her, and this was after I lost weight. So of course I'm trying clothes on, and I've got some really great pieces, and she had no intention of buying anything. So I would trying on the outfits, and, obviously, really happy because I've been finally able to buy some nice things, and just no comments about how it looked, that it looks nice, no comments whatsoever. And then what does she do? She goes and picks out a whole bunch of clothes for herself to try on, so that she can come out, with her outfits to show to the staff and whatever. And of course, they're all going to say, oh, wow, you look so great. So it couldn't be about me. It couldn't be about me losing weight and trying these outfits on. She had to turn it around and make it about her. Another incident, I was out shopping with her. We were at a jewelry store, and I saw a necklace that I really liked. And I said, oh, wow, I really like that. She bought it for herself. So it could never be about me. It was always, always about her. So those are two examples. I just could never share any good news with her. I could never go out and just have a coffee with her, because the conversations always went back to her. Everything always went back to her. So there's a very superficial relationship when you have a mother like this. You don't want to share your wins, your successes. There's definitely no deep emotional connection, because all of that information is used against you later on. The next point, which is a good one, is boundary violations. So with a narcissistic mother, you are basically just an extension of her. You're not allowed to be your own person. And you definitely don't have any privacy, and she's going to try and control you as long as she can. So in my case, when I was still living at home, she opened my mail. She would listen in on my phone conversation. She controlled where I went, what I did. She ran a business from home, running a daycare. And she had families, children there, evenings, weekends, holidays, like Christmas Day. These kids were always around. So she would go to bed at night at about 8 o'clock, and she would make me stay up to babysit these kids until like midnight or 1 a.m. whenever the parent came to pick them up. But I never had the freedom to say, no, I'm not doing that, because I was so controlled, I could never say anything. And, even when I moved out and I was, an adult living on my own, she still controlled me in different ways. And it's the manipulation as well, manipulating to get you to do things for her and control. And even also when I was married, she was still trying to control and manipulate what I was doing. So you're not allowed to be independent. They want to control whatever they can because you are still an extension of them. So there has been so many years of trying to put up boundaries and distance myself. And then many times I've gone no contact with her because I just cannot handle the emotional abuse, basically the emotional manipulation. And then when she starts doing this to my kids too, that's where I draw the line. So you really have to protect your privacy, set up boundaries, and make sure that that person understands that you're not tolerating any of this and you're not going to be controlled. The final point in recognizing that your mother is a narcissist is that there's conditional love. There's that feeling that if you don't do what she wants, what she's expected, what she's controlling you over, that love's not going to be there. And in most cases, you've grown up feeling that your mother doesn't like you. You're always searching for this validation and that feeling of love and support and protection that you never got. There's a feeling of loss and just this emptiness. And no matter what you do, you could go to the moon and it still wouldn't be good enough. My successes have long surpassed what my sister has done with her life. And success looks different from one person to the next, but I did everything that I would have expected my mother to want. I stayed living at home with her as long as I had to. I went to school, I got a good education, I got a good job, I've worked at the same job for many years, I've worked my way up, I got married, I waited to have kids, I raised my kids well, they're educated, they were in activities, they're very respectful. I've done everything she would have wanted me to do, and it still was never good enough. So I stopped worrying about looking for that validation from her, and so many times I've gone no contact, and this is what will happen too. You'll go no contact and there will be some emergency, and it's usually some false medical emergency that brings you back to the relationship. It's a very hard place to be when that person who was supposed to be the biggest role model in your life, the one that you admire and aspire to be, is the one person who never gave you anything that you really needed. And there's a lot of people out there that have lots to say about people that come on social media and complain about their parents. But I'm here to share this with other women so they don't feel so alone. And like I said, it took me years. I only just recently in the last few years found this term on social media. And it really helped me to understand so that I can just be at peace with myself. So I'm here. I wanted to share that with other women so that they can feel at peace as well. And if you've experienced this, let us all know that you're here in the comments, because we need support from each other. And it's not going to end. Many of us, we go no contact, we end up going back. But even when you're no contact, there's still that feeling. It's that guilt that just constantly sets in. So if you're here, let me know you're here in the comments. I'm happy to chat with you. If you made it to the very end of this video, I really appreciate you so much. I hope that you'll subscribe. And I hope that you'll watch some of my other videos. I'm here to share all of my fun adventures, good and bad. So until next time, bye for now.